The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan, the subject of my investigation, the disappearance of 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard from Santa Barbara County, California. She went on a long drive with her mother and never came home. Here's the story. 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard vanished under mysterious circumstances after traveling with her mother, Ashlee Buzzard, from Santa Barbara County, California to Nebraska in a rented car. When authorities finally located the vehicle, Melodee was nowhere to be found. The disappearance has sparked a desperate multi-state search involving local and federal agencies, helicopters and volunteers combing rural areas and small towns along their route. Investigators say Ashlee has provided limited cooperation, leaving crucial questions unanswered. As search teams follow digital and physical traces, hope and heartbreak hang in the balance. Every passing day deepens the mystery. Where is Melodee and what truly happened during that long drive across state lines? That drive is such an important part of all of this. This is a long drive, hours and hours and hours, thousands of miles. Let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, who is here in studio. Cody, let's get into this route that she took, where she started, where she ended up, where she drove through. What can you tell us?
Well, Vinnie, of course, this is a long route that spanned across multiple states over the course of 3 days. Now, it hasn't been specified the exact route, like the exact roads and turns where they went to from California into Nebraska, the exact city in Nebraska. But let's take a listen to the spokesperson for the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office explaining the general route that they believe they took.
So we're generally focusing on, it's a pretty direct route from Lompoc all the way out to Nebraska, but we are making a point to emphasize that on the return trip that she did take what appears to be a bit of a detour down into Kansas and then back up along the regular route to return home. We don't know where along that route Melodee was or is, and that's really our area of focus. So we have 3 days that are our investigative time span, and then for the distance, it is from Lompoc all the way out to Nebraska, down into Kansas and back.
So, Vinnie, you heard her say there, it's a pretty direct route from Lompoc to Nebraska. So we went on Google Maps just to see the quickest route from Lompoc to Omaha, Nebraska as a reference point. And we have the map for you here, and we begin in Lompoc. This is not the exact route, but just where Google Maps told us the quickest route would be to get from Lompoc to Omaha. So we begin in Lompoc, you then hop on the 101, headed down through Santa Barbara, down toward Los Angeles. So that's another major city. So we're on the coastline here in Southern California. Then you head through Los Angeles and you hop on Interstate 15, which takes you all the way up through the Mojave Desert to Las Vegas. So we've hit coastline, we've hit spans of desert. Now you keep on the Interstate 15 through St. George, Utah. Now as you navigate through Utah, you hit the Fish Lake National Forest as you continue on up through. Now you go through Utah, hop on Interstate 70. Now, 70 will take you through Grand Junction, Colorado, through the White River National Forest, all the way through to Denver. So we've hit coastline, we've hit desert, we've hit forest, and Vinnie, of course, we know in Denver it's full of mountains out there at the Rocky Mountains. And then, of course, our reference point, you keep going on over through to Omaha, Nebraska. Now, Vinnie, as with any investigation, the police call upon the public to help out with anything that they've seen, anything they may have heard. On Facebook, this woman called in with a tip. Her name's Michelle Purdy. She says, quote, "I swear I saw this girl in Nebraska City on Sunday at the very end of one of the parking lot lanes at Walmart. I've already submitted the tip. I included my phone number in the tip. Is there anything else I should do?" Now, Vinnie, remember that police said that the return trip from Nebraska dipped down into Kansas. So we just wanted to see where Nebraska City was in relation to everything. So we go back to the map. Nebraska City, you see there, is south, about 45 miles south of Omaha, down toward Kansas. So very interesting there, Vinnie, with this tip coming in. But the other interesting thing, Vinnie, is that this whole trip, one way from Lompoc to Omaha, is a 27-hour drive. And that's according to Google Maps on the quickest route to take. And I even took it upon myself to we don't know exactly. We don't know they went to Omaha. We just know they went to Nebraska. I looked at a city right across the Colorado-Nebraska line, in Imperial, Nebraska. And even then, one way is still 22 hours, Vinnie. So very strange to take a trip that long by car over a 72-hour period, over a 3-day period.
Yeah, Cody, great analysis of that route. Appreciate it. And that brings us to the first question in our investigation tonight. And obviously the most important question, where is Melodee Buzzard? She got in the car, she started, went on the route, did not return. Here to help answer that question, Scripps News Group reporter Crystal Bermudez, who's been on this case since the beginning, covering it more in depth than anyone else in the nation. She's in Santa Barbara County. Also with us, retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon, who specialized in searches. I'm going to begin with Bobby. Bobby, FBI is in on this one. How are they approaching this search with the information that she took this 3-day drive from Lompoc in Santa Barbara County to Nebraska to Kansas and back home?
Well, Vinnie, the first crucial information they have is the mileage in on the car and the mileage out, right? So when she signed the car out, there's a certain mileage, and then when she turned it back in, there's the ending mileage. So they know exactly how many miles she traveled in that car. So like your reporter said, when they start putting that together, they can actually see, did she make it this far? Did she, because it's an out and back. So it's an easy kind of halfway kind of, because they know the mileage. So then that's where you first start, and you see all the different routes she may have taken with that mileage out and back. And then you start looking at maybe her cell phone was pinging off. That was if she was traveling with a cell phone, it could lead them to, certain areas that they want to take a closer look at.
Let me ask you, Crystal, the image of her, that's at the rental car facility, correct? And there's an alteration to her appearance?
Yeah, Vinnie, that's correct. So the images that are now surfacing that detectives have shared with the public was from a local car rental agency in Lompoc. The only one in Lompoc is Enterprise. I have reached out to Enterprise to see if they can give me more context as Melodee and Ashlee entered that day for the car rental, but I haven't gotten word back. But from what spokesperson Raquel Zick had informed me was that she does appear in those images wearing a wig. It's much different from her natural hair texture and color. It's straighter, it's darker, and in this one image on your screen right now, it is tucked in a gray hoodie. So one thing Raquel did point out is that this is a very distinct look. You can tell it's a bit off, and so that's why they are encouraging the public to recollect their memories if they have seen this particular outfit along with this wig. And Raquel did mention to me that Ashlee Buzzard was known for wearing wigs. Detectives have confirmed that as well. So we see one of those wigs here on Melodee in these images.
So Bobby, as you sort of narrow down what you feel the route may be, how extensive can you be? Like, do you start looking for surveillance video? Are you looking for license plate readers? How do you get the cooperation from all the potential municipalities and departments involved in this?
I mean, you start to see what a monumental task this could be, but, this is kind of what the FBI does at times. And you throw a lot of manpower at it. You get all the different areas. And we've already seen some of the results where a woman sees this picture and she calls in a tip. I mean, that's what we need people to do. But now we have you try to narrow down that area so that people become more attentive in that area where you think these people may be. So that's what they're doing now. They're trying to narrow down those areas, and then you can kind of flood it with, investigators who say, do you have, video, did she stop for gas? So you look, cars run on gasoline. So you have to look at all the gas stations that she may have pulled off. She's probably traveling by interstate. If she went out and back that quick, she's probably on major highways, interstates. And so you look at those interstates that she could have traveled on. The short time distance kind of helps in that respect, because we know she didn't take a lot of detours through country roads. She had to move fast. And so you look at those highways, you look at the gas stations where she may have refilled her tank and things like that. So you start to narrow it down. It is a monumental task, but it can be done if you have the manpower to do it.
Crystal, is there any significance to any of the cities on the way there or on the way back that have some connection or nexus to Ashlee, to Melodee, to the family, to where she may have lived before?
Yeah, Vinny. So I actually got in contact with her mother, Lori Miranda, which is Ashlee Buzzard's mother, in regards to this trip, if she knew any whereabouts or why she would make a trip that far out. She did tell me she wasn't aware or knew of anyone that Ashlee may know in regards to any states along the route up into Nebraska or even Kansas, which was the stop they made on, well, Ashlee had made on her return trip. She wasn't familiar with anyone that they may know in Kansas. She did tell me, however, they did have family in Las Vegas. So she believed maybe in the past she would get these car rentals and drive as far out as to Las Vegas. But as far as any other states that may have stood out along that route, she wasn't able to recollect any memories of her knowing someone in those areas or why she would need to travel that far out.
So, Bobby, that would seem to be interesting, right? Significant. She has some familiarity with Vegas, but obviously you're in Vegas, but you end up in Nebraska. How much effort would you put towards kind of canvassing Vegas?
A lot, and I would be looking at her contacts on her phones or texts. Or internet searches? Did she reach out for somebody? Did she meet somebody online recently that her mom may not know about? And did she travel to that person? And so I'd be looking at all of those things. But certainly Vegas is, with that information that she has family that she's visited previously, I would certainly focus on that. But that can be kind of done fairly quickly. And so if that hasn't been fruitful, then they've got to kind of take those next steps and go further east on this trip and continue that search. Look at her search histories. Did she search for any areas around this route? Did she meet anybody that might live online along this route or somewhere in this area? All of those things are being done.
And one last question, Bobby, before we run out of time here. The rental car, from my perspective, I'm not a detective, I'm not an investigator, but it seems like there's a positive and a negative to it, right? The rental car companies do sort of track their cars to a certain extent, but then when you return them, the first thing they do is clean these things up. What are your thoughts about getting any sort of valuable evidence from the rental car?
Well, I mean, and we know that, like, they probably don't clean it to the extent that a criminal that's trying to execute some forensic countermeasures would clean them. Like, they don't take bleach to the inside of the car, for example, right? So, I think that they vacuum, they kind of wipe it down. But if there was any, like, forensic, now, the kid was in the car, so you're not looking for hair or things like that because you would expect to find that. You're looking for blood and other, bodily fluids that may have been a result of an injury. And so, I mean, that stuff, you can wipe off, but you're not going to cover it up, with a detailed examination.
Bobby Chacon, always great to have your insight. Thank you so much. Crystal's going to stick around. Coming up next, is Ashlee Buzzard dealing with mental issues?
The house was in disarray. There were raw eggs in pans. There was rotten food in the fridge that I think she was trying to give my granddaughter.
The Court TV podcast will return.
We're all looking for answers, but, we're showing up today so that way, she knows we care. We're here for Melodee, and hopefully she will come out and tell us where she's at.
Very concerned neighbors for obvious reasons. There's a 9-year-old girl supposed to be living in that house, and no one knows where someone knows where she is, but no one is saying where she is. I want you to take a listen to this. This is Ashlee Buzzard's mother, okay? So this will be Melodee's maternal grandmother speaking about Ashlee.
He said, did you know that your granddaughter was missing? And I said, missing? He goes, when's the last time you talked to your daughter? I said, I don't know, 2 years, a year and a half ago. The psychologist that I was seeing said, I said, should I be keeping these things? I keep buying them for her for Christmas and her birthday. She said, if you keep them for her, she'll know that when she was gone, you were thinking about her. So that's why I keep them. And sometimes I wonder, am I going nuts, right? About 15 minutes later, a sheriff calls me. He says, I'm at your daughter's house in Orchid, and I was just getting ready to take your granddaughter Melodee with me to CPS because we're getting ready to take your daughter to the hospital. The house was in disarray. There were raw eggs in pans. There was rotten food in the fridge that I think she was trying to give my granddaughter.
That's the grandma talking about something. This is completely separate from the disappearance of Melodee Buzzard. This is another instance where the sheriff is very concerned about Ashlee and her ability to care for Melodee. That brings us to the next question in our investigation. Is Ashlee Buzzard dealing with mental health issues? With us to help answer that question, still with us, is Scripps News Group reporter Crystal Bermudez, who is live in Santa Barbara County. Also joining us, licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Jamie Zuckerman. Thank you both. All right, Crystal, can you give us a little more insight? You've been speaking to a lot of family members, and from what I gather, it seems like all of them sort of acknowledge that there is some level of mental health that Ashlee is dealing with. Did anyone talk about a specific diagnosis? Did they talk about what they've observed?
Yeah, in that sit-down interview with Lori Miranda, Ashlee Buzzard's mother, Melodee's maternal grandmother, she was talking to me about a situation, a separate situation, as you mentioned, that occurred back in 2016 when she received a phone call from an officer telling her to come to her residence. At the time, she had lived in Orcutt, California. And when she arrived, she describes what she had seen. The house was quote unquote in disarray. There was rotten food in the fridge, and she had believed that she was feeding that food to her oldest daughter, Ashlee's oldest daughter, Destiny. I did learn along the way as I was speaking with Lori that Ashlee did lose custody of that oldest daughter. I have been trying to get in contact with her, but haven't had much luck. But I did want to share a statement from Ashlee's aunts and other family members. They shared this with me earlier last week, and in part they wrote, quote, as reported, after giving birth to Melodee, Ashlee experienced the loss of Melodee's father 6 months later. We believe she may have been experiencing untreated postpartum depression in addition to the grief from the loss of Melodee's father on top of her mental health struggles. All this while trying to do her best to hold it all together as a single mom with little resources, end quote. And there's a full statement up on one of my articles on ksby.com, but Lori did talk to me about bipolar disorder that Ashlee may have had. She talked about one time taking her to the mental hospital, and that's where she had been diagnosed by a psychiatrist. But when I mentioned to her the statement that was brought to my attention by other family members, which would be Melodee's aunts from her mother's side, she told me she has not been in contact with these family members, and she was not made aware of this statement, but did appreciate the statement that was passed along to me.
Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, okay, let's talk about this now. How do you figure out what's going on with mom? Because the big issue obviously is that her daughter's missing and she's just not talking to anyone.
Yeah, I think being uncooperative regardless is a red flag. And I said this before, that it's really a question of, is she hiding her or is she harming her? And we don't have enough information. We have family reports, but they haven't seen her in a long time. So per the family, she has mental health issues. And yes, it could be untreated postpartum from 2016 when Melodee's father died in an accident. We have to question, are there drugs and alcohol involved? Is it more of a serious mental illness like a bipolar disorder and a manic episode, or schizophrenia, which would result in paranoid delusions or disorganized thinking, disorganized behavior. So that could make sense, but we just don't have enough information to explain why she would do this, and more importantly, why she's being uncooperative. I think the bigger question is this because of a serious mental illness, or is this action of taking her child and driving across states something that is a deliberate and purposeful attempt to hide her, or, give her to somebody, or harm her for her own benefit? And I think that's the bigger question that we're waiting on.
Let me ask you this, doctor. If, in fact, she is suffering from some level of mental illness and is treated through treatment, could that perhaps change her posture here? And would that perhaps be a road to getting her to talk about what happened to Melodee, whether it's treatment through, speaking with her, whether there's any sort of drugs that she would need? Is that a possible road to getting to the truth here if she is suffering from some serious mental illness?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend, obviously, on the diagnosis. If it's schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, medications would be very helpful to stabilize her. It may require hospitalization. It would, obviously decrease any type of paranoid delusions. It would improve her cognition and her thinking. And so yes, that could absolutely help. If it is, however, unrelated to serious mental illness, and it's more of harming her daughter in some way for her own benefit, that's a different issue. That's something that, is reflective of something that probably can't be treated.
Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, thank you so much. We know your time's valuable. We appreciate it. Crystal is going to stick around, folks. Still to come. Can law enforcement compel Ashlee Buzzard to speak?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the disappearance of Melodee Buzzard and her mother's complete lack of cooperation. Here's the story. A cross-country drive turned into a haunting mystery. 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard disappeared after leaving California with her mother, Ashlee. Investigators say Ashlee returned home alone, offering few details about the trip or her daughter's whereabouts. Now an urgent search stretches from Santa Barbara County to the fields of the Midwest, with drones, dogs, and volunteers refusing to give up. As clues dry up and timelines blur, one question echoes halfway across the country. What happened to Melodee Buzzard? And again, the person who can answer this is Ashlee, her mother, but she is not cooperating. She's not talking. Let's check back in with Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, who's been following this case. All right, Cody, we've seen a lot of instances of her not speaking to people, trying to talk to her. Let's run through them if we can.
Yeah, Vinny, we've seen that on several occasions now. People trying to go up to her house. Sometimes she answers the door. Sometimes she doesn't. Let's take a look at some of them. Here we're going to see a family member. We're going to see Scripps News Group's own Crystal Bermudez, who we're going to speak with again shortly. We're going to see law enforcement and child welfare services all making an attempt to speak with her. Let's take a look.
While we were talking, Ashlee Buzzard came out of the house.
Ashlee?
And Karina quickly approached her.
Ashlee, it's Karina. I just want to see if you're okay. If Melodee's okay, how you guys are doing. Do you have the time to speak with me?
Although she did not answer questions about Melodee, Ashlee stated she was feeling overwhelmed and stressed and told Karina she did not appreciate her being parked outside when she did not want to communicate with her.
Wait, this is my number right here. If you ever want to talk to me, I want a relationship with Melodee, please. Please, Ashlee. Is she okay? Are you okay?
Did she mention anything about Melodee?
No, she didn't. I did ask her if Melodee is okay, as well if she's okay, but she did not answer.
Meza says she's now left with even more questions.
I feel sad, you know, like I wish she would have just told me, like, is she okay? That's all I want to know, is if my sister is okay. Ashlee, I'm gonna get going now.
And in a final attempt to contact Ashlee, Karina knocked on her door once more.
Lily and that side of the family either. And I would love to have a relationship with Melodee and you. We can get together and hang out with the kids. Please take my number at the door so we can talk. I'm here for you and Melodee.
When I knocked, there was no answer.
Hey, my friend, you came back.
Yeah, we're here.
And Vinnie, I don't want it to be lost upon our viewers that this is a woman, this is a mother whose daughter is missing, and she's acting in this way. It's just so weird. But we also heard from a spokesperson with the investigating agency in this case speaking about Ashlee Buzzard's lack of cooperation. Let's take a listen.
We have been in constant and consistent contact with Ashlee, of course, asking, the where is Melodee questions consistently. She does still remain uncooperative.
And Vinnie, regardless of all of this, it is important to remember that this case has still not grown into a criminal investigation into Ashlee Buzzard, at least yet.
No, it hasn't. And for a lot of people, this is very, very confusing. I have a lot of questions about it. Cody Thomas, thanks so much. Great job. That brings us to the next question in our investigation. Can law enforcement compel Ashlee Buzzard to speak? Or can they put some pressure on her to speak? Here to help answer that question, former federal prosecutor, president of the West Coast trial lawyers, Nima Rahmani and former Los Angeles County Deputy Public Defender Philip Dubé. I got my California kids with us tonight. Let's roll up our sleeves on this one. Nima, answer the question, because can law enforcement compel her to speak? You've got a child, you have sole custody, and no one knows where your child is.
Vinny, they can't compel her to speak. And I want to be careful how I say this, because I know Philip is going to make sure that Ashlee has all her constitutional rights protected, but they can certainly pressure her and lean on her. And it's really going to depend on whether Melodee is alive. I'm going to be honest. If she is, I cut some sort of deal to return her home. The child's safety is paramount. And even if she's not...
Wait, how do you cut a deal with someone who won't... How do you cut a deal with someone who won't talk? Like, she's saying nothing. She doesn't even answer the door.
Well, what you do is you contact her through law enforcement, and law enforcement make all sorts of different promises and threats, Vinny, and usually you got the DA behind them telling them what to do. So you tell her, listen, this is going to go one of two ways. You either provide us the information, or you're going to be arrested and charged with neglect and eventually murder. So it's up to you. Now, oftentimes people will start talking. They'll get a good lawyer like Philip, and they'll know that it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when they're going to be arrested and charged. You have to use the leverage you have as a prosecutor, as law enforcement, to get the information you need to save Melodee's life.
You know, Philip, in many of these cases, there's usually a couple of parents involved. They may be in a custody battle. There may be other people involved. Here, it's just a mom and her daughter. She basically removed her daughter from school, was homeschooling, then went on this trip. Apparently, Melodee didn't come home. What can be done to get her to speak, to have her understand? Listen, we just want to know where Melodee is.
There is another route, and they cannot use the police to try to tell her to give an interview or make statement. But what they can do is they can get DFS social workers go in to county counsel's office to file what's called a 300 petition. But they have to make a showing that this child is in danger of substantial risk of harm to self or to emotional health.
Philip, I'm just going to stop you for 1 second, Philip. Your audio's kind of coming in and out. So maybe I'm going to give it one more shot, because we're missing like half the words, and I know you've got the answer here. So let's try it one more time. Maybe just get a little closer to the mic, wherever it is.
Well, I told tech folks it's an issue. Can you hear me okay?
It's not great. It's not great, Philip. But go ahead. Okay. We'll give it a shot.
It's not. Here's the bottom line. They can go through the dependency. If she fails to appear, they can issue a warrant. If they pick her up on the warrant, the judge in the dependency court can force her to say where the child is or keep her. Okay. If the court is convinced that she's provided all known information, the court has to release her. But for now, there is no evidence that this child is facing substantial danger. So there is no foundation to bring a petition. Just none. So absent that type of foundation showing, the court's out of it and the cops are in.
All right, we got most of that, Philip.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Go ahead, finish up.
I believe that child is fine.
Nima, do you agree? Nima, do you think Melodee could be fine right now?
No. Yeah, and by the way, I know what Philip is talking about. I can give a summary. My wife is actually minors counsel in dependency court. So dependency court is when they terminate parental rights. That's the most extreme action, when they take your child away from you. So it's a civil proceeding. It's before a judge. So Philip is right. They can bring the mother before the dependency court, and they can compel her to testify. And if she doesn't, they can terminate the rights. The problem is that doesn't really matter if the child is missing or dead and mom doesn't care. So it is another route. It's not the biggest hammer that the government has, but it's certainly one, and an important one as well. Dependency is important. You can, like I said, bring the mom. It's an important proceeding. It's actually the only type of proceeding outside a criminal case where the government's going to give you a lawyer. It's that important. But I still think the criminal justice system is the way to go, to lean on someone like this, because look, I don't want to bring up other cases, Vinnie, and Philip says that she's alive, but we've covered cases in Florida, we've covered cases in Idaho. We know how this story ends. 8 times out of 10, the child is dead. So I hope that's not the case, but often I've been doing this long enough, and you and I, Vinnie, we've covered so many of these cases. I would be surprised as more time passes by if we do end up finding Melodee.
All right, Nima Rahmani, thank you so much. Philip Dubé, you did a great job negotiating the technical difficulties, and we got to get your point across. Thanks so much, Philip. All right, coming up next, will the family be able to convince Ashlee Buzzard to speak?
We love you. We're here for you.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
As a mother, my mom heart absolutely cannot take this. I felt really inclined to step in. My hope was to make contact with the mother, maybe to be helpful.
That's one of Ashlee and Melodee Buzzard's neighbors saying she wanted to step in. She wanted to help. I mean, everyone wants to help. Everyone would do whatever necessary to find this 9-year-old girl. I want you to take a listen to some of the family members. And remember Ashlee's situation. The father of Melodee died when Melodee was 6 months old, but the father's family is involved here as well. So let's take a listen to some of the family members talking about Melodee and trying to find her.
He said, "Did you know that your granddaughter was missing?" And I said, "Missing?" He goes, "When's the last time you talked to your daughter?" I said, "I don't know, 2 years, a year and a half ago."
We haven't seen her in over 4 years due to the mother not allowing the family to see her. She has a beautiful smile. She's very, very friendly, very loving, very welcoming. She loved to be around her family.
And she's listening. We love you. We're here for you. And we just want you to be happy and call me. This is my baby boy. And he's gone, and she was just a baby. But here, I took this picture at the hospital. I walking in, and he said, Mom, wait, Mom. I know your dad is watching you from heaven. I love you, baby.
That brings us to the next question in our investigation tonight. Will the family be able to convince Ashlee Buzzard to speak? How about her family? If police can't do it, if child welfare services can't do it, if neighbors can't do it. Here to help with our investigation, Scripps News Group reporter Crystal Bermudez, and also joining us, national trial attorney, jury consultant, defense attorney Madeline Somerville. Let me ask you, Crystal, did you get any sense from speaking with all the family members on both sides that any of them will be able to get through to Ashlee and maybe make that connection and get her to speak and to talk about Melodee and perhaps provide the answer?
Yeah, great question, Vinnie. I feel like in the time that I've been there in the last 2 weeks, the only contact that I have been able to see just a bit successful in hearing Ashlee speak was from Karina Meza, Melodee's oldest sister from her father's side. When Karina went to knock on the door, that's when Ashlee spoke for the first time, at least with someone of a family member in that regard, and told her she didn't appreciate her being outside and parked and trying to make contact. She wished her well, and also wished her and her children well. Karina does have children as well, that she was telling me Melodee and her kids used to play just before they were cut off from having contact with Melodee. But this was one of the rare interactions, I have seen Ashlee actually speak back to a family member who was checking in to see if she was okay, if Melodee was okay. And during that interaction, Karina was really pleading in this moment, telling her, I just want to have a relationship with you and Melodee. Let's get a chance to get together. Please get in contact with me. I'm leaving my number on your door. So this was one, I would say, Vinnie, one of those interactions that I think we were able to see some sort of feedback from Ashlee in that moment.
Madeline, what are your thoughts here about the way this has developed? It's really unusual. I've never seen anything quite like it. Sometimes in a custody battle, things like this. There's no custody battle. She had custody of her 9-year-old daughter. What are your thoughts about convincing her to speak here?
Yeah, and we're not at trial. So we're trying to use certain mechanisms that perhaps are premature in order to be able to get her to speak. And so if we're talking about the family getting involved, there's a couple ways that can happen. Families can work with prosecutors to try to fill in gaps that the prosecutor might need, and the prosecutor can try to subpoena her or use other court mechanisms to be able to get documents that she might be like, or records from credit cards that she might have used along the way to try to be able to, again, fill in those gaps in the story. But the family, obviously, really no one can compel anyone to get, words out of their mouth. They have to speak them themselves. And that's why it becomes so difficult. But the thing that's different about family members or people that might know her is that they're usually really good at coaxing out the truth because they make people feel safe. The only time that confessions really happen is when people feel safe. My personal concern here is with the issue of sex trafficking. I'm concerned that that's what happened here. I'm obviously not sure. That's just my speculation from having reviewed the case. But I'm sincerely hoping that the family will be able to convince her you will be safe with whatever's going to happen to you, regardless. And we just need to make sure that Melodee will be okay.
Crystal, before we run out of time, we have about 30 seconds left. Did the family give you any indication as to why there was this sort of breakaway by Ashlee from the rest of her family? Because it seems like at some point they were all getting along.
Yeah, at least from the father's side, they have continuously repeated to me that it was Ashlee, the mother in this situation, that cut off all the communication just about 4 years ago. Lori Miranda, Ashlee's mother, tells me it was because she no longer understood her daughter, and for her own safety, she felt like it was best to step away. And other family members from the mother's side tell me they have had contact with her as early as just 2 years ago. So it's a bit unclear why this is so much separation is here present with Melodee, but from my understanding, it seems that Ashlee has really distanced herself, and her mother describes at least the mother's side of the family as dysfunctional. But I do want to mention one thing, Vinnie.
Crystal, we're out of time.
All right.
I'm so sorry. We'll do it again. We'll do it again. Thanks so much, Crystal Bermudez, Madeline Somerville. Ashlee Buzzard knows what happened. She knows where she took Melodee, and that's what makes all of this so frustrating. A little girl's missing, and her mother's doing nothing to find her. We've seen this way too many times. Never ends well for the children, but I will continue to hope she's alive and can be found. I think all of us need to. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues. There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.